Hey, see if you can find anything worth watching. You're gay.
2019 was a whole ass year filled with fantastic video games that I frankly did not touch. However, somewhere between the 7-hour sessions of Tarkov, I managed to squeeze in a couple playthroughs of the awkwardly titled Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, registered trademark. A game that follows a Play-Doh-faced ginger man-child person and his early 2000s robot dog as they gallivant around opening boxes, meeting cute goth chicks and experiencing death stick-induced visual seizures. When that corporate robot slave sat down next to Vince Zampella in the crowd at E3 2018 and he said they're making a Star Wars game, I weirdly said to my friend that it would be cool to make a Star Wars Souls-like, and then when some other guys said the words thoughtful combat, my mind said, man, that sure sounds like it's going to be a Souls-like, and then the game came out, and it's a Souls-like. So yeah, hats off to me on that one. Fucking clap. And hell, it's even more of a Souls-like than I was expecting, bonfires and all. The game follows the story of one ex-Jedi Padawan called Cal Kestis, who is played by Cameron Monaghan, who before this game was probably best known for his role as the Joker in the TV series Gotham, which I have never seen but I'm sure is just fucking awful. Cal, beyond some initial fake controversy about him being a white male, is actually a character who I enjoyed somewhat. He's impulsive at times yet unsure of himself due to happenings in the past that he blames himself for, and I feel that comes across well in the performance. I almost completely forgot he was ginger. The game opens to a shipyard on the planet Brocca, where you first take control of Cal and meet his friend Skin Mustache. This whole part starts with one of those basic movement tutorials that feels like it's belittling you like an old woman who can't find the volume control on the television remote. But then you climb up this ledge and just... oh my god! This game is really pretty. It certainly has a couple of unfortunate looking assets, but overall is just such a visual treat. It also has a fantastic score. It's always hard to make Star Wars music due to the fact it will be held up against John Williams in terms of quality, and they often do fail. But this puppy just slaps. This game also features music by The Who, which of all the Mongolian throat-singing metal bands I've listened to, it's definitely in my top 5. Anyway, we established that this game is set 5 years after Order 66 and, well, you've seen the trailer, your friend is going to die and Cal is like, no, don't die, you're so sexy. Cal has to use the Force to save his friend's life, so the dynamic tossing duo of useless Inquisitors show up, Fiona and Captain Nose. They kill Pussy Lips and drop you onto a train that you have to climb. I feel like I can see the influence here. This is finally a bit of a combat tutorial. It's kinda good looking, goes on too long and ends before the good part, much like my ex-wife. The game kinda does a Mega Man X and makes you fight the end boss like you're supposed to feel overwhelmed, but she's kinda so easy that you're just left annoyed that the fight got cut short. Though considering that you fight this boss a grand total of 4 fucking times, maybe it's a good thing that it never lasts too long. Cal is saved at the last minute by our 2 main supporting characters, Bug Eyes Malone and Alien Danny DeVito. This little opening sequence does bring to light the game's difficulty, or lack thereof for the most part. Personally, I think that just because a game has this huge Souls-like badge ham-fistedly stuck to the front of it with Gorilla Tape, doesn't mean that it needs to be punishingly hard. However, the game's hardest difficulty, which all of this gameplay is of, felt like it only reached levels of difficult action game rather than Dark Souls hard. Once again, this isn't necessarily a problem, but I did find that I rarely felt that sense of accomplishment that is typically associated with this subgenre. So Argus the All-Seeing One explains to Cal that she used to be a Jedi and is looking to reform the Jedi Order, which, judging by these movies I have right here, is going to go very well for us. Up to this point there's been so many cutscenes. I'd say at least 60% of the game's opening is unskippable cutscenes. Come on game, you have to know what I want.
You want to play the game, don't you?
Yes, thank you! You are taken to the planet Bogano, which is the game's first actual level. Bogano is a planet that features lovely vistas, dodgy attack animations, and the hardest boss in the sodding game. Bogano is where the game's Metroidvania influences begin to seep through. As we all know, Metroidvania is just a way of saying backtracking, except the good kind of backtracking. Halo 1 is backtracking, Ratchet & Clank is Metroidvania. Sort of. This area is packed with shit that makes you say, I reckon I can come back for that later. Locked doors and out-of-reach objects are littered about like cigarette butts on a busy Manchester high street. Really, ultimately, there's only one route you can take right now.
There's nowhere to go. There's really nowhere to go.
Shortly after arriving on Bogano, you meet this little bastard called BD1. That stands for Boss Daddy 1. BD1 is simultaneously the cutest and most useful droid in all of Star Wars canon. I would grind Baby Yoda down to a fine guacamole-like substance if it meant I could protect my precious robot dog. BD1 tells Cal... In order to get there, Cal realises he needs to cross this gap. This is where the game introduces its canon-friendly system for introducing new Force abilities. After experiencing Order 66 and the subsequent Jedi Purge, Cal was left with a feeling of failure, and as a result he has cut himself off from the Force to a degree. New abilities are presented to the player not as a new thing, but as Cal repairing his connection to the Force and relearning something that he has previously forgotten. Or to put it more simply, big sad, no wall running. No sad, wall of death. On the topic of Force abilities, Cal possesses an ability called psychometry, which is the ability to touch an object and learn things about the object and its history. It's sort of like what Rey does in The Force Awakens, if you're aware of that. This ability is used in a really interesting way within this game. A large amount of secrets hidden throughout Fallen Order's levels are objects that Cal can rub his sausage mitts against and extract tidbits of lore and background info. For example, he can be outside Aldi and reach down to touch a used heroin needle, and he would be able to garner that Claudia Winkleman had previously visited that location. Having lore tidbits as collectibles in this manner is a really nice thing if you're super obsessive and anal about knowing all your Star Wars facts. Although if you're that kind of person, then the game's inconsistencies would have already pissed you off somewhat. I suppose you could always be happy with the game's other collectibles. Ponchos. Now equipped with the ability to run against walls like some anime fans' fantasy, you can head towards the temple and meet up with a gentleman with a familiar voice.
Meditating here, I was granted a premonition through the Force, a vision of doom. But the inside.
This fella's like, go to the next level. So naturally you do, with your new soulbound companion not far behind. Oh, and not forgetting to pay Ogdo a visit on your way back. Bit of context, you are following this guy's footsteps to get a key to unlock this vault to get a holocron with the locations of Force-sensitive children hidden within it. A holocron is like a Star Wars USB drive. Although I suppose the difference is that this old man is allowed to have one filled with a bunch of children's personal information. Upon returning to the ship, Steve Buscemi informs you that the old man was her Jedi Master, and she used to be a Jedi, and you're gonna go get them kids. You then find yourself on the planet Zepho, which is the largest section of the game and a planet that is home to an ancient civilization which Mr. Old was obsessed with. Zepho was definitely the place where I thought the game started to feel good. I should explain that the opening was very exciting and Bogano felt very intriguing and was nice to explore, but up until this point there wasn't really any combat that I found to be interesting. Zepho finally features enemies that have clear and fair feeling attack animations, and its inclusions of guy with stick and guy with two stick does not go unappreciated. On Zepho you kill some white people, ethically cull some wildlife, and find an ancient tomb full of balls. This tomb is where the third part of Fallen Order's video game Voltron rears its head. It's like Tomb Raider because there are puzzles in a tomb. If you ask the internet, this game is somehow simultaneously Dark Souls, Ratchet & Clank, Uncharted, Tomb Raider and fucking Animal Crossing all at the same time, when in reality it's just kind of like if Bloodborne was casualised and had a coherent plot. The puzzling in this game is fine, at least somewhat challenging, decently engaging, and it breaks up the combat, but like most puzzling, it gets boring real fast. In the tomb you learn to push things, much like you do in real life. What? You really expected me to believe that she fell down the stairs? This ability opens up my favourite tactic of yeet the difficult enemy off a cliff. In the tomb you're played another message by Father who tells you to go to Kashyyyk and meet some Wookiees and Forrest Whitaker. Make sure not to focus on his eye, he doesn't like that. On the way back to the ship you have another excuse of a boss fight and we fly back to a lovely action set piece with nice world building. The Wookiees are still fighting back against the Empire, which of course they would be, with help from the universe's favourite eye colour changing anti-hero, Saw Gerrera. You get to steal an 80-80, and so far EA is 2 for 2 on that one in their single player campaigns. You rock up, free some Wookiees, murder Alan Tudyk, kill another 80 easy, and are sent back to Zepho. This first trip to Kashyyyk is short, yet probably one of my favourite sections of the game. The enemy variety is nice, the platforming is inoffensive, and there are a few mini-bosses and interesting combat arenas to keep you challenged. Don't worry though, we'll be back to Kashyyyk because this game is going to milk that whole Metroidvania thing for all it's worth. Cal isn't the only one getting upgrades. On Kashyyyk, Bob Dylan got the ability to overcharge certain electrical panels, so you best believe that we can explore a new area on Zepho. And throughout the game, BD1 will unlock other abilities that will allow you to access new areas, as is the way the game goes. We're going to explore a second Imperial excavation into a Zepho tomb, and thank God for that because fighting stormtroopers and robots is far more enjoyable than fighting rats and plants. Once we're back on Zepho, we can kill another side boss and then go deep with Cassim G. Down here we have our second fight with the second sister, and much like the first one, it's very easy and we lose in a cutscene. There is then a nice yet predictable twist about the second sister actually being the Padawan that Bogros betrayed, and yada yada, but all I can focus on is that she takes off her cool as shit helmet and never puts it back on. This is a travesty.
Y'all killing me with this!
After some business with a giant sarcophagus and an ambush, we learn how to pull it, and get down to some more ball-based puzzling, and decide to go to Kashyyyk again to meet up with Tarful, a character who appears in Revenge of the Sith for approximately 18 frames of film. On the way back to the ship we get captured by bounty hunters and there's a short arena section. This is all to establish the new mini-bosses that will appear at this point in the game. Since this game has a fair bit of backtracking, the game now populates certain areas with these semi-randomised sets of mini-bosses, and it's a very welcome change of pace. but also gets old very sodding quick after fighting the same 4 dudes 12 times. I don't think this second section of Kashyyyk is anywhere near as good as the first. It's less cool guy lightsaber fighting and more Donkey Kong slip and slide. Tarful says you have to climb this big ass tree, so on the way up you meet
my bird,
who is a pretty cool dude who actually just is a fast travel point, disguised as a giant bird. At the top you see another recording of your boy Old Jedi who says that the key thing you need will be on Dathomir. Dathomir is a cool place with horny men, topless hipsters and goth waifus, so you best believe we'll be going there soon. But first, opinions are divided on which boss is the hardest. It's Malicos. But I must say that I'm 100% sure that the Ninth Sister is not the hardest boss in the game. Off to Dathomir with us. And wait, shit, I forgot a chest up in the fucking tree. Some of you may know Dathomir as the home to Darth Maul, Ventress, and the rather comically named Savage Opress. It is here that you meet a witch who blames the Jedi for the deaths of her fellow witches, when in reality Grievous just came down here and was just like, fucking gacked them. A few steps and major pagan moments later we also meet, hello, it's me, totally good and normal guy, master of reverse psychology. Remember not to go into the spooky place over there. So naturally we're heading for the spooky place. There is a minor, well actually major, zombie related diversion on the way there though. The gameplay on Dathomir is a little on the edge for me. Some of it is essentially just amped up blasters and sticks, and we've established that is a-okay by me. But the other half is just the game throwing action figures at you like you're a younger sibling cowering in the corner of your shared bedroom. Before we get back to the spooky place, there is...
this is not my bird.
Who is the largest and, following typical Dark Souls logic, easiest boss in the game. In the temple, Cal has a vision from his past and... oh god. Oh no. So yes, the game makes you relive Order 66 from the perspective of Cal, which is like the Star Wars equivalent of hopping in your TARDIS back to the Holocaust. Pour one out for my boy Plo Koon. Cal also has a vision of his master being like, wow, you're fucking shit, mate. So Cal breaks his lightsaber by gripping it tight like a poorly experienced teenage girl and runs off. Oh, and the creepy guy tells Cal, hey, I'm actually a bad guy, Lamau. And oddly for Star Wars, this is the one time that a bad guy was explaining his plans and offering things to Cal, and I was sat there like, that makes sense to me. Cal runs back to the ship and says to Flick from Bug's Life that his lightsaber's fucked. Naturally she, like any sane person, just says, we'll fucking fix it, calm down. So let's go fix it. We are maybe 85% of the way through this game by this point, and just now we're finally being given the ability to customise our lightsaber colour. To put this in perspective, we've been collecting cosmetics throughout this whole last game, but only now can we do this. Yes, this fits the lore more, but come on lads, it is a video game after all. So we're now off to the planet Ilum, with a nice indirect confirmation that this is in fact the planet that later becomes Starkiller Base. By now you know the gist of things, so we do some puzzling, some more jumping and a little swimming till Cal almost dies and we get a new lightsaber crystal, but shit! It's broken. Cal starts once again to decide to pack it all in until another hologram plays of Mr. Olds, and I can paraphrase it as,
諦めたら周りのことを思えよ応援してる人たちのことを思ってみろってあともうちょっとのところなんだから絶対やってみろ必ず目標達成できるだからこそ Never give up!
Cal, now filled with inspiration following that fantastic speech, builds his new lightsaber anyways because broken crystals can't keep my man down. You can now split your lightsaber in half thanks to this god-awful looking ugly part here to do giga attacks. So now on the way out, the game throws 1,000 enemies at you that you cut through like
Butter.
You then return to Dathomir to fight the Vision Quest again, this time managing to get past it towards the key majig that you need. The Night Sister from earlier then returns.
Oh no, he's hot!
Turns out that her name is Merrin, she likes long walks on the desiccated bones of her enemies, and she can ruin a man without breaking a sweat. She tells Cal that the Jedi are evil and Cal's like, bruh. Nah, we're not. So now they're in love and we have a boss fight to do. Taron Malicos is my favourite fight in this game. He is also the fight that I would consider the hardest. This game really breaks into its stride when you're fighting an enemy that also has a lightsaber, so for the most part, this fight, the Ninth Sister fight, and to a lesser extent the Second Sister fights, are the best parts of the game. These are certainly the parts of the game where it felt the best to play. This combat system would have actually served well in some sort of Old Republic type setting or something where loads of people have lightsabers, so there's a wide range of possibilities for lightsaber fights. So some stabbing and slashing and then Merrin puts that fucker in the ground. No, I mean she literally puts him in the ground. We now finally have the key thing and Merrin comes to congratulate Cal.
Are you flirting with me? I've never really known what flirting is, but let's see what happens and then we'll know.
And I guess she's coming with us now. Back on the first planet Bogano, we use the key and Cal has another vision. This one I really liked. Cal experiences a vision of a future in which he trains all the children from the Holocron to be Jedi, and they are all killed as a result. This informs the decision he makes at the end of the game. But the real reason I love this part is, number one, this transition between climbing and crawling through the dirt in a trench, and this bit, obviously. Anyways, the Second Sister shows up and this time you beat her in a cutscene. briefly, before Cal has a lightsaber-induced panic attack. She makes off with the holocron and we go to follow her to the final stage of the game, the Fortress Inquisitorius. Oh look, Mustafa. This whole area has great presentation. Genuinely, the whole fortress is this imposingly huge, terrifying building that carries the sense of oppression and power through every room. This is also easily the single best area in the game. It's also the only area that you're not allowed to play through again, so fuck you, I guess. At this point the game is like, oh, you want to play then? And it throws everything at you. Arenas with moving floors, every enemy type you can imagine, huge hordes of enemies with fire support, corridors where you can just push forwards one enemy at a time. It's fantastic. Then at the end of it all, you have your final fight with the second sister, who once again is a fucking pushover and gained one new, barely effective ability. So yeah, that fight's over and it's the end of the game, so I'll see you... Oh fuck. This is the single scariest representation of Darth Vader ever created. You cannot fight him, you can barely run. But hell, you get away anyways, mostly through luck, and Cal predictably destroys the holocron and then the game ends on a freeze frame? Fallen Order is an incredibly fun game with some annoyances like unskippable cutscenes, and there's no New Game Plus, so no idea about that. But since I apparently shill Star Wars more than I intake oxygen, and because I played like 4 games last year, it was still my game of the year 2019. It has all my favourite things, lightsabers, robots, Eastern European goth chicks. It's a great game for me that starts out feeling okay and steadily increases in quality as the game goes on. I really am hoping to see more from this series as soon as possible because I'm kind of bored of this one now, thank you. Fucking expensive though. I'm sorry, no meme today. I just wanted to give a bit of an update. I've had a series of goings on in my life recently, therefore I haven't uploaded a video in I think 4, maybe going on 5 months at the point when I actually upload this one. I know that there's very few of you that give a fuck about that, but we're up to 140-ish and there's about 25 people who, since they subscribed, I haven't uploaded anything, so they're probably thinking like, is this guy, is he here? But I'm back. I got a new computer. Look at this. It's real pretty. It's real nice. I mean, the computer sometimes doesn't fucking work. It's a piece of shit, but it's all good. It's all good.